Mysterious advanced weapons and extraterrestrial appearances saved Delphi of ancient Greece from the invading Persians. Well, we know what Delphi was. That's where the oracle was. The oracle was a sibylla. There were many of these around Greece. In August of 480 BC, that was after the Spartans 300 with Leonidas of Sparta at the hot gates of Thermopylae, Xerxes' army came to Phokis, Locrida, in just about an hour or two north of Athens, Greece by car, in Viotia, it's another province, without encountering any resistance. The Persians, Xerxes' army, were the Persians. They got there without encountering any resistance from the ancient Greeks. Thebes, which is an hour ride north from Athens, and most of the other area, the others from Viotia, zero in submission to the Persians. The destination of the Persians was Athens, which almost inhabited by residents will occupy in September. And on his march to Attica, part of the Persian army is rumored to have broken away from the main army, and it headed for Delphi. In order to rob the renowned sanctuary of the treasury of Delphi in ancient Greece and the east of its riches, the kings used to offer a lot of money to the oracle to do her stuff, to foretell and predict and prophesy whether they would win a war or not, etc. So they used to pay money to that treasury, and they wanted to rob that treasury of its rich offerings, and there should not be too much faith in the whole story. Now, it's certain that the Persians, if they did not conquer Delphi, at least secure control of the area, but it was ruled out that Xerxes the Persian was ordered, or at least allowed, to plunder the sanctuary, as this would further exacerbate Greek resistance, giving the nationwide glamour of the oracle. Moreover, there are no archaeological evidences of pillage and destruction of the sanctuary during that time. Herodotus' narration is probably based on little credible oral testimony from the Delphi residents themselves. The initial oracle defeat, it had given the Athenians, for example, a shorthand that all resistance was in vain, annoyed the Greeks, who, if anything, expected support from the oracle, at least to give them a favorable outcome for a war against the Persians, in their struggle against the Persians. It makes no sense to agree here that Delphi infiltrated, was bribed by the Persians, or simply maintained an attitude of neutrality. After the final victory of the Greeks, however, it is only logical that Delphi wanted to project the image of the active resistance, inhabitants but also gods and heroes of the region, against the invaders. And now, this part of the Persian army started with guides heading to the Delphi sanctuary. As we said, they wanted to get the treasury, with Parnassos on his right. They destroyed all the area of that Phokida that they passed. They burned the states of Panopia, Davlia, and Aeolida. They separated from the rest of the army and followed this route to capture the Delphi treasury and the sanctuary, and offer all these treasures to the Persian king Xerxes. And he was informed, it says here, this is written by Herodotus, I was informed Xerxes knew all the valuable sacrifices found in the sanctuary. He knew them better than he had left what he had left in his palaces, because many had often talked about the sacrifices of King Chrysos, son of Aliatis, Chrysos, king of the lords. In the 6th century BC, he had offered valuable offerings to Delphi, which Herodotus refers to in his first book, work number 1. From the time his kingdom was subjected to the Persians, Chrysos remained a prisoner in the court of the Persian king Cyrus, Xerxes' ancestor. How the Persians already knew about the enormous wealth that existed in Delphi. As soon as they heard of it, The Delphians were terrified and in the midst of their turmoil asked for guidance on how to protect this sacred treasure of Delphi. Would they bury it somewhere or move it to another area? The god Apollo, however, did not allow them to move their offerings, saying that he was able to protect them. When Delphi heard of this, when the people of Delphi heard of this, they took care of themselves. Their wives and children were sent to Achaia, which is basically the Peloponnese. And most climbed to the top of Parnassus, the top of the mountain, transferring their belongings to the Korikio cave. Others went to Amphissa, Lochridas, and all of Delphi fled the state except for 60 men and the prophet. The prophet is not the one who prophesies the future, but the religious official of the Delphi oracle. He's the one who meditates between God and people, who speaks to people. Perhaps he was the one who conveyed the Pythian ancients in a literal form. When the barbarians approached and saw the temple, apparently the temple of Apollo, at that moment the prophet, called Aikiratos, saw in front of the temple sacred weapons carried from within, which are incomprehensible to touch a mortal man. The prophet hastened to inform the Delphians who left, to tell them of this divine sign. The barbarians, in their hurry, hurried to reach the temple of Prania, and then they were shown even greater signs than the previous one, and that was a great miracle, to have the weapon of war outside the temple alone. And the other divine signs are admirable. As the barbarians advanced and found themselves in the sanctuary of Athena, Athena Prones, Bronius Athenas. Yes, the Bronia meaning the person who would, benefactress Athena. Many lightning struck them from the sky, and 2 rocks were cut off from Parnassus, the mountain. With a big bang, many of them were besieged, and from the temple of Athena, the beneficial goddess, saved the Delphians that way. With all these divine signs, the barbarians were terrified, and when the Delphians realized that they were leaving, they went down. They returned and came down to do away with most of these Persians. With all these divine signs, the barbarians, the Persians that is, were terrified. And when the Delphians realized that they were leaving, they went down, did away with them. And those who survived, the barbarians, quickly headed for Viotia, saying, as I have been told, that they had seen other divine signs in addition to the preceding ones, 2 supernatural warriors in the body to pursue and kill them. 2 supernatural warriors. I guess they were gigantic light beings or something. This is similar to what was seen in the Battle of Marathon about 10 years before. Episilos, one of the just a regular Athenian soldier, was blinded by this huge divine being of uncreated light. He said that this divine giant was next to him, and he was holding what he described as a weapon pointing towards the Persians. In Marathon, there's a bay there, and they were fleeing towards their ships to leave the Athenians, who had surprise attacked them with a phalanx. And this being of this giant human being of divine light was holding some kind of a rod, and there was a very blinding light coming out of that rod, and he was pointing them towards the Persians and just going zip zap, horizontally, and he was just wiping out the Persians that way. And the ancient Athenian lost his eyesight when he looked at that ray. And he described that. His name was Episilos. So it could be that these supernatural warriors were around at the Delphi area as well. It's not just the treasury, it's also the temple, it's also the Pythia where she sat. You know, there's also a theater there, there's a stadium, there's a lot of buildings there. And this is the most common, I would say. Now, the Delphians claim that these two are the domestic heroes, the guardian and the autonomous, Phylakas and Aftonos, whose sacred enclosures are near the sanctuary. The guard is on the road higher than the temple of Athena, and Autonus near Castalia, which is a little spring under the rock Ibea, and the rocks that flowed from Parnassos could still be seen to this day, that is the streams. And I have been there a couple of times, and yes, so there's a little stream across from the temple, across the street from the temple, and it's still there to this day. They were lying on the outskirts of Athena the Benevolent, where they were stopped after falling on the barbarians. So these invaders left the sanctuary in that way. This is from Herodotus' History, chapter 8, verse 35 to 39, that I just read for you. This is by Dr. Angelou Vlahu, Herodotus, The History of the Persian Wars, Oceania, Athens, 2005. So if this was recorded in Herodotus' ancient Greek history of the Persian Wars, how there was some kind of a angelic or divine intervention with this against the Persians. We shouldn't be surprised because, there was, in the Old Testament, we have the Archangel Gabriel talking to the prophet Daniel in the book of Daniel, saying to him what would be concerning the Athenians, the Greeks, that is, the ancient Greeks, and how they would defeat the Persians. And he said, blessed be the nation that defeats the Persians. There was only one nation that kept on defeating the Persians until Alexander the Great finally did it, of course, with divine intervention, and that was the Greeks. Otherwise, they would have taken all over the whole of Europe. They were a very big force, a very terrifying force. And I'm sure that it was because of divine intervention that they were stopped by Greece. They didn't capture Greece. So obviously Alexander the Great did away with the Persian Empire, and he went all the way to the borders of China, and that's where they also said that his generals put up a pillar there, saying that King Alexander came up to here. It was the coast of China. It was at the end of China, before the sea that would lead them to Japan. And they said that he had the lightning rod of Zeus, what could have been some kind of an atomic weapon or laser weapon. Maybe he was given this by the Atlanteans. It was said that he was brought this from Hyperborea, from the Arctic, by some extraterrestrial Atlantean. Who knows? That's what they're saying, and that there's a copy of this in one of the Nepal Buddhist temples, the lightning rod of Zeus, that the generals said that they had hidden very well, but a copy of it is found still today in a Buddhist monastery in Nepal, of the Himalayas. So, very strange going on. So what kind of weapons did they have? They had laser weapons, they had secret weapons stashed somewhere that only certain kings could use. And what were these entities that came and these were Atlanteans perhaps, interdimensional? But Manly P. Hall says that they're still around because they used to live for thousands of years, and these UFOs and these beings that we see could be them. Who knows? Please leave your comments. Thank you very much for your support. God bless you all. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.